You can't master your mind by chance. Without a deliberate system, your thoughts will master you. These 12 daily Stoic routines draw from the timeless lessons of Stoicism, revealing how discipline is built through quiet, consistent action. The same rules the great Stoic philosophers lived by every single day. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. Marcus Aurelius wrote those words nearly 2,000 years ago, and yet, if you look honestly at your own life, you might see how dangerously easy it is to delay truly living. You tell yourself you'll start when the timing is better, when you have more clarity, more energy, more confidence. But here's the truth: that better time you're waiting for doesn't exist. The paradox is that you don't gain readiness first and then take action. In reality, it's action that forges readiness. Waiting to feel ready is simply another form of procrastination, one that dresses itself in the language of preparation. Every day you hesitate, you reinforce the habit of hesitation. You start to make peace with inaction, and without realizing it, you trade the life you want for the comfort of the life you already know. You may believe that you are avoiding risk, but in reality, you are accepting a far greater risk: the slow erosion of your potential. A Stoic understands this not as a motivational slogan, but as a practical fact of life. Seneca warned that we are always dying little by little. Time is not waiting for us to be brave. So let me ask you, how many opportunities in your life have slipped past, not because you lacked skill or resources, but because you convinced yourself it wasn't the right moment? And how many of those moments will you admit, in the quiet of your own mind, you'll never get back? These are not sentimental questions. They are questions of arithmetic. Each day lost is one fewer you have left, and no system, no philosophy, no wish can give it back. The Stoics would tell you, the only way to live well is to act well now. Epictetus put it bluntly: if you delay living according to your principles, you will never live by them. Your life is not a rehearsal for a better future version of yourself. This is the arena, and you are already in it. Every decision you make today is evidence of the kind of person you are becoming. This is why the first step to discipline and mental mastery is not about building elaborate routines or reading countless books. It's about choosing not to abandon yourself, especially when it would be easier to do so. The most dangerous form of self-betrayal is subtle. It's the quiet permission you give yourself to keep waiting. But if you can decide, here and now, to act without the false comfort of readiness, you have already set yourself apart from most of the world. If you find value here, subscribe. It's a small click for you, but it helps us share more timeless Stoic wisdom with the world, and it ensures that these ideas stay alive in your daily thinking. Let's make it a conversation. Which do you think is harder? A, controlling your thoughts, or B, controlling your emotions? Leave your answer in the comments. I'm curious to see where you stand. And as you consider your answer, remember this: Marcus Aurelius didn't just write about the virtues of action, he lived them. Even as the most powerful man in the Roman Empire, he began each day by confronting the truth that his time was limited, and that inaction was a silent surrender to chaos. And yet, there's a principle Marcus Aurelius lived by that most people ignore until it's too late. Most people think they are steering their own lives, but if you look closely, you'll see the opposite. Your daily schedule, your emotional state, even your opinions, are often reactions to forces you didn't choose. The paradox is that you can feel in control while being entirely driven by external events. In Stoic terms, this is living as a passenger, not a captain. Epictetus drew the line clearly. The only true power you have is over your own mind. Everything else, fate, other people's actions, the economy, sits outside your control. Yet most of your energy goes to trying to control those things, while the one domain you own is left undefended. Ask yourself, how many of your recent decisions were deliberate, guided by principles you've chosen, and how many were simply reactions? You read an alarming headline and your mood drops. Someone criticizes you at work and your self-worth shrinks. The traffic is bad, and suddenly the rest of the day feels ruined. None of these events have the power to dictate your inner state unless you hand it to them. And yet, this handover is so habitual, you hardly notice it happening. A Stoic doesn't deny the influence of the outside world. He denies it the right to rule him. Marcus Aurelius, dealing with wars, plagues, and political betrayal, wrote in his journal as if reminding himself every morning, "What's essential is my judgment about these events, not the events themselves. You can't choose the winds, but you can set your sails. You can't guarantee calm seas, but you can refuse to drift without a rudder." In practical terms, taking the reins means creating deliberate checkpoints in your day where you ask, am I leading my life right now, or am I being pulled? That moment of self-audit is the difference between unconscious reaction and conscious command. It could be as simple as pausing before responding to an email, or choosing your morning activity instead of letting notifications decide it for you. The point is not grand heroics. It's small, repeated acts of self-direction that accumulate into a life lived on purpose. This discipline is uncomfortable because it removes the shield of excuses. You can no longer blame the market, the weather, or the mood of the people around you. Once you claim the role of captain, every choice is yours. That level of responsibility can feel heavy, which is why most avoid it. But here's the irony. Surrendering control doesn't free you. It enslaves you to whatever is loudest and nearest in the moment. If you know someone who needs this message, share this video with them. You might change their day, or even their life. The question is not whether you have control. The question is whether you are exercising it over the one territory the Stoics say truly belongs to you. And when you begin to hold that ground, something else becomes possible, something deeper than mere control. It's the alignment of purpose and action, the kind that can carry you through difficulty without breaking. Marcus Aurelius lived it. Seneca wrote about it. Few today understand it. That is where we go next. You've been told your whole life to set goals. But here's the truth the Stoics would force you to confront. A goal without a deeper purpose is fragile. It will hold up when the path is easy, but the moment you face resistance, it will collapse. And the paradox is that the very act of chasing a goal without knowing why often takes you further from what you truly value. You think you're building success, but you may simply be constructing a more elaborate distraction. This is why Seneca advised, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Notice the order, clarity of being before action. In the absence of that clarity, you'll find yourself collecting achievements that feel strangely hollow because they were never aligned with your principles. You may hit the target, but discover you've been aiming at the wrong wall. Ask yourself this: if you removed the recognition, the praise, even the financial gain, would you still want that goal? If the answer is no, then it's not a purpose, it's a performance. The Stoic life is not about doing things that look good from the outside. It's about doing what is right by your reasoned nature, even when no one notices. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that what matters is living in agreement with nature and reason, not in agreement with popular opinion. Purpose is not an abstract feeling. It's a decision about the kind of person you will be, and a refusal to act in ways that betray that decision. This is why purpose is a more powerful driver than motivation. Motivation fluctuates with mood, energy, and circumstance. Purpose, when chosen deliberately, remains stable even under stress. It becomes the compass that tells you which way to go when the map is unclear. Without that compass, you risk building a life that looks successful on paper, but feels misaligned in reality. You might have the impressive job title, the income, the house, and still feel the unease of knowing you've compromised along the way. That unease isn't a mystery. It's the inevitable result of chasing outcomes instead of anchoring yourself in values. And once you feel it, no amount of further achievement will fix it. Only alignment will. So before you commit to the next big target, ask why you want it. Not once, but 3 times. Each time you answer, strip away what's external: status, approval, comparison, until what remains is something you would still pursue alone in an empty room. That's the test. If the purpose still stands in silence, it will also stand in chaos. If this lesson resonates with you, like this video and subscribe for more timeless Stoic wisdom. When you understand that purpose comes before goals, you stop mistaking activity for progress, and you start measuring success by the integrity of your actions, not by the noise they generate. Next, we'll explore how to prepare your mind for the unexpected, not by hoping for calm, but by training in the storm. It's the mindset Marcus Aurelius used to remain unshaken, even in the face of death, and it will change the way you approach every challenge. Strength is not something you find when life gets hard. It is something you have already built before the challenge arrives. The paradox is that most people wait for difficulty to come before they decide to prepare, only to discover they are unprepared when it matters most. A Stoic understands that the training ground is not the battlefield. It is the quiet, uneventful days when no one is watching and no one is demanding more from you. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the art of living is more like wrestling than dancing. Wrestling requires resistance, pressure, and readiness for the unexpected. Dancing assumes the rhythm is steady and the floor is smooth. If you want to meet life on your terms, you must practice for the pushback, not just the performance. Look at how procrastination quietly erodes this preparation. You tell yourself you will address your temper when you are calmer. Focus on your health when you have more time, or face that difficult conversation when the moment feels right. Days pass, then weeks, and each delay trains you in the habit of postponement rather than the habit of readiness. Seneca warned that life is short, not because time is scarce, but because we waste much of it. The minutes you ignore today are the tools you will wish you had when tomorrow tests you. Training your mind like a warrior means deliberately seeking small discomforts that build resilience. It could be rising with your first alarm instead of hitting snooze, finishing the task you least want to do before midday, or choosing a calm response in a situation where your emotions push for reaction. These are not grand gestures. They are controlled rehearsals for the moments when the stakes are higher. This kind of practice forces you to develop the discipline of choosing action over impulse. Epictetus reminded his students that you become what you give your attention to. If your attention is spent on ease and avoidance, you will shape yourself into someone who collapses under strain. If your attention is spent on steady, intentional effort, you will shape yourself into someone who can endure and act with clarity. The cost of not building this strength is subtle but permanent. If you keep delaying, opportunities will not just pass by, they will never return. And when they are gone, no amount of wishing will recover them. Training is your insurance against that loss. You may not know when the storm will hit, but you can decide today whether you will meet it as a spectator or as a prepared participant. Next, we will examine a Stoic principle that gives your routines the depth and longevity they need. It is the shift from chasing results to living by the kind of identity that sustains those results. A rule that can quietly reshape every choice you make from the moment you wake up. Everything you do repeatedly becomes a quiet architect of who you are. Not your intentions, not the moments when you feel inspired, but the small actions you choose every single day. This is the identity you are building, whether you think about it or not. The challenge is that most people overestimate the power of rare, extraordinary effort and underestimate the slow, irreversible influence of routine behavior. You can speak of discipline and clarity, but if your daily actions contradict those words, your habits will win and your identity will follow them. Seneca observed, "Every habit and faculty is preserved and increased by its corresponding actions." He was not talking about dramatic public victories, but about the private repetitions that shape character over time. If you consistently choose distraction over focus, you become someone who expects less of your attention. If you regularly avoid discomfort, you become someone for whom avoidance feels natural. This is not fate. It is the predictable result of reinforcement. Consider your current routines with honesty. How many of them were built by conscious design, and how many simply evolved because they were easy? The Stoic approach does not insist on perfect habits all at once, but it does insist on awareness. You are not only living your days, you are practicing for the kind of person you will be in the future. Every morning, you hit snooze. Every time you postpone a task you know matters, you are casting a vote for an identity that accepts delay as normal. The opposite is also true. Each time you follow through, no matter how small the act, you confirm to yourself that you can be relied upon. This is why the Stoics valued consistency over intensity. A single day of perfect discipline is less valuable than a month of steady, deliberate effort. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the work of becoming better is ongoing, not occasional. There is no finish line where you are permanently disciplined. There is only the daily choice to act in alignment with your principles. Over time, those choices become less about conscious effort and more about who you are. If you want to live with greater discipline and mental clarity, begin with one small habit that reflects the person you want to be. Do it daily, without exception, and track it so you can see the chain grow. This is not for the sake of the task itself, but for the identity it reinforces. When you miss, notice it and return immediately. The purpose is not perfection, but the establishment of a pattern you can trust. The danger of ignoring this truth is that you will slowly become a person shaped by default, built from habits you never chose. That is a form of surrender the Stoics would not accept. The good news is that you can begin the reversal now. You can start building the identity you respect, one repetition at a time. Share the Stoic habit you apply every day. What you have heard today is not a set of abstract ideas, but a blueprint for living with clarity, discipline, and inner strength. The heart of this message is simple yet demanding. Who you become is the sum of the choices you make and repeat every single day. In the Stoic view, discipline is not a moment of effort, but the consistent alignment of action with principle. If you wish to change your life, you do not wait for inspiration. You train your mind and character in the small, often invisible acts that shape your identity. The practical path begins now. Choose one action that reflects the person you want to be, and do it daily, without fail, until it becomes as natural as breathing. In doing so, you are not just completing tasks. You are building the architecture of your mind. Yet, there is a deeper challenge that lingers beyond this. Can you hold to these routines when the world is chaotic, when distractions are constant, and when the easier path calls? Stoicism reminds us that the measure of a person is not how they act when it's easy, but how they act when it's hard. As you leave this video, ask yourself, what is one Stoic habit you can begin today that will still serve you 10 years from now? Share your answer in the comments. Your insight might inspire someone else's transformation. Subscribe to discover timeless Stoic principles each week and learn how to apply them in real life.